It's 3:17 in the morning, and I'm wide awake again. Not the kind of awake where you're rested and ready to start the day, the kind where your eyes snap open in the dark and your chest already feels tight before your feet touch the floor. Headlights from a passing car slice through the curtain, throwing pale streaks of light across the ceiling, and I watch them slide from one corner to the other, then disappear. And I'm left in the dark again, with nothing but my own breathing and the weight of a question I've been asking for 147 mornings straight: is today going to be any different? Let me tell you what 147 days of unemployment looks like. It looks like a half-empty coffee cup on a cluttered desk, cold since yesterday afternoon, a thin film floating on top. It looks like a stack of unpaid bills tucked inside an old Bible, not because I'm super spiritual, but because that Bible hasn't been opened in months and it was the closest thing within reach when I needed to hide something I couldn't bear to look at. It looks like my hand trembling just a little when I reach for my phone, thumb hovering over the email icon, that split-second rush of hope before the screen loads and the inbox reads 0. Every single time. You'd think after 147 mornings I'd stop hoping. But hope is a stubborn thing, isn't it? It clings to your ribs even when your brain has already written the day off. And here's the part nobody tells you about waiting on God. Somewhere along the way, your prayers start to feel like voicemails you're leaving on a disconnected line. You go through the motions: Lord, please open a door. Lord, please provide. Lord, please show up. But after a while, the words taste like ash in your mouth, and you start wondering if anyone's actually listening. I'm not standing on a pulpit right now. I'm the guy who lay in bed last Tuesday and whispered into the ceiling, "Are you even there?" Because I'm running out of ways to pretend I'm okay. If you've never said something like that, I don't know if we're reading the same Bible. But if you have, if you know what it's like to doubt God not because you don't believe He exists, but because you're not sure He's paying attention to your life, then you're in the right room. The city outside my window is still asleep. No hum of traffic yet, no distant sirens, no neighbors starting their car. Just the soft rustle of the curtain when a breeze slips through the crack, and the sound of my own sigh, long and slow, like air escaping a tire. It's a sacred kind of quiet, the kind that should feel peaceful. But inside my head? It's a war zone. Anxiety is doing laps around my thoughts. Fear is replaying every rejection email I've gotten this year. And shame is sitting in the corner with a megaphone, reminding me of every mistake, every missed opportunity, every person who seems to have their life together while I'm stuck in this holding pattern. The silence outside doesn't match the storm inside, and that contrast is almost worse. It makes me feel like I'm the only one who can't find rest. Then my hand accidentally brushes against it, that dusty Bible on the edge of the desk. The one with the bills stuffed inside. I don't know why I reached for it. Maybe it was muscle memory from a time when faith came easier. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was God, using the smallest nudge to break through the noise. I pulled it toward me, and the bills slid out onto the floor. I didn't pick them up. Let them sit there for a minute. Let them be someone else's problem. The Bible fell open to a page I didn't choose, and my eyes landed on words that stopped my breath. Not because they were new. I'd read them before, probably highlighted them in a brighter season. But because they met me exactly where I was, at 3:17 in the morning, with cold fingers and a hollow chest. Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. That's Psalm 143 verse 8. And I just sat there, staring at it, while the clock kept ticking. Here's the mirror moment, the part where I saw myself clearly for the first time in 147 days. I had been searching for answers everywhere. Job boards. Networking emails. LinkedIn profiles of people who had what I wanted. I'd been refreshing my inbox like a slot machine addict, hoping the next pull would change everything. But I hadn't been bringing my mornings to God. I'd been waking up and immediately diving into the panic, letting the first voice I heard be fear instead of my Father. The verse didn't scold me. It just invited me. Let the morning bring me word of your love. Not the job offer. Not the breakthrough. The love. The love comes first. And maybe that's what I'd been missing all along. I wish I could tell you that I immediately fell to my knees in worship. But the truth is messier than that. I sat there with the Bible open and tears running down my face, and the only prayer I could manage was barely a whisper. I don't know how to pray anymore, God. My prayers feel like broken pieces I can't put back together. But I'm still here. At 3:17 in the morning, with nothing to offer except this, I'm still here. And you know what I noticed right then? The first edge of dawn was starting to push through the curtain. Not a dramatic sunrise. Just a faint, gray light, barely there. But it was new. It was different. It was quiet, and it was holy, and it felt like God saying, I'm still here too. Here's the memorable truth I'm carrying out of that room, and I want you to carry it too. Sometimes faith isn't the victory shout. Sometimes it's the weak whisper at 3 a.m. that says, I'm still here, Lord. That's not failure. That's not weak faith. That's faith stripped down to its rawest, most honest form, the kind that doesn't pretend, doesn't perform, just shows up. If that's all you have today, it's enough. He can work with a whisper. He can meet you in the dark. But just as that thin light began to grow, something unexpected hit me, a memory I hadn't touched in 5 years, rising up like a ghost I thought I'd buried. It was another morning, another silence, and a loss that broke something in me I've never fully let God reach. And suddenly, the tears weren't just about unemployment anymore. They were about something much older, and much deeper, that I'd been carrying without even realizing it was still bleeding. The room fell away for a moment, and I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was back in that hospital room, 5 years ago, with the fluorescent lights humming overhead and the antiseptic smell so thick I could taste it on my tongue. My father's hand was in mine, and I remember thinking how cold his fingers felt, not the cold of death yet, but the cold of a body slowly shutting down, one system at a time. The machines beeped their mechanical rhythm, and I was whispering prayers like a desperate child, over and over, the same words, please, God. Please, God. Please, God. But here's the section hook that stopped me cold at 3-something in the morning, tears still wet on my face from the unemployment breakdown. There are prayers that seem to go unanswered forever, but what if we've been misunderstanding God's silence the whole time? And my father died anyway. I remember the exact moment the monitor flatlined. The sound, that long, empty tone, still lives somewhere in my bones. And I remember the anger. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, quiet kind that settles into your chest and makes a home there. The kind that stops you from praying because every time you close your eyes, all you see is that hospital bed, and all you feel is the weight of unanswered pleas pressing down on your throat. 4 months after the funeral, I couldn't step into a church without feeling like a fraud. The worship songs felt like lies in my mouth. Everyone around me would raise their hands, eyes closed, singing about God's faithfulness, and I would stand there frozen, arms crossed, thinking, where was His faithfulness when my father was gasping for breath? Where was the healing? Where was the miracle? I stopped saying amen. The word felt like ash on my tongue. My Bible gathered dust on the shelf, literally, a thick gray layer that I noticed every time I walked past it and pretended not to see. It became just another piece of furniture. Just another abandoned thing. But here's the mirror moment, the part where you might see yourself in my story. I had defined answered prayer as everything going my way. I had decided that if God didn't perform according to my script, then He wasn't listening, or He wasn't good, or He wasn't even there. And that definition, the tiny, unexamined assumption, had become a prison I didn't even know I was living in. How many of us have done that? How many of us have walked away from faith not because God failed us, but because He failed to meet our expectations of what He should do? That's when the memory shifted. Right there in my dark apartment, with the first hint of dawn beginning to creep through the blinds, I suddenly remembered something I hadn't thought about in years. It was the night before my father died. He was barely conscious, drifting in and out, but in one of his lucid moments, he grabbed my hand with surprising strength and pulled me close. His voice was a rasp, barely audible, but his eyes were clear. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going home." At the time, those words felt like a betrayal. Home? What do you mean, home? Your home is here. With me. With us. I had pushed the memory down so deep I almost forgot it existed. But now, sitting in the dark at 3-something in the morning, jobless and broken and finally honest with God, those words hit differently. They didn't feel like defeat anymore. They felt like peace. My father wasn't surrendering to death. He was walking toward something. Someone. And he wasn't afraid. I opened the Bible, the same one that had been collecting dust for 5 years, and my hands found Psalm 23, almost on their own. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. I had read that verse 100 times. I had it memorized as a child. But I had always focused on the wrong part. I had always thought the promise was that God would get me out of the valley. That He would airlift me over it. That He would make the valley disappear. But that's not what the verse says. It doesn't say, even though I walk around the valley. It doesn't say, even though I avoid the valley. It says through. Through the valley. And the promise isn't that the valley won't exist, it's that God will be with me in it. This hit me like a freight train. Because I realized, maybe for the first time, that God had never been silent. I had just been listening for the wrong thing. I had been waiting for the big, dramatic, mountain-moving answer, the healing, the job offer, the breakthrough, and all the while, God had been whispering something much deeper. Not "I will fix this immediately," but "I am with you in this." My father understood that. In his final moments, he wasn't begging for a miracle. He was resting in a presence. He knew he wasn't walking into the valley alone. And me? I had spent 5 years furious at a God I thought had abandoned us, when really, He had been right there in that hospital room. Right there in the funeral home. Right there in every sleepless night and every bitter morning. I just couldn't see Him because I was too busy looking for the miracle I wanted instead of the miracle I already had, the miracle of a God who doesn't run from our suffering, but enters into it. The tears started falling again, but they were different now. Not the hot, angry tears of grief and frustration. These were tears of release. Of relief. For the first time in 5 years, I whispered into the darkness, "I forgive myself for being angry at you. I forgive myself for walking away. I forgive myself for not understanding." And I felt something shift, not in my circumstances, but in my soul. A knot I had been carrying for half a decade began to loosen. Here's a memorable truth I want you to hold on to, especially if you're in your own valley right now. Prayer doesn't change God, prayer changes us. It's like water flowing over stone. It doesn't make the stone soft in a day. But over years, it shapes something beautiful that could never have existed otherwise. I thought about the Psalms, those raw, unfiltered prayers where David and the other writers scream at God, doubt Him, question His timing, and beg for deliverance. My God, why have you forsaken me? That's not a failure of faith. That's faith being honest. That's faith refusing to pretend. And maybe God would rather have my honest anger than my fake worship. I don't know what time it is anymore. Somewhere between 4 a.m. and the first hint of gray light bleeding through the curtains, I find myself sitting on the floor of my apartment, not dramatically, not with some grand spiritual gesture, and for the first time in 5 years, I open my mouth to pray. God. I'm here. I don't know where to start. I'm still scared. I'm still not sure about a lot of things. I'm still angry, honestly. I don't understand what happened with my dad. I don't understand why you felt so far away. I don't understand why it had to hurt that much. But I'm here. That's all I got. I'm here. And then I remember something. Matthew 6 verse 6. Jesus talking about prayer, not the showy kind on street corners, not the performance for an audience, but the kind that happens in secret. When you pray, go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father, who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I still don't have a job. The bills are still sitting on the counter unpaid. Nothing has changed out there. But something is shifting in here. I press my hand against my chest. Right where the tightness has lived for 5 years. And then I picture something. But I'm standing on a beach at sunrise. The sky is pink and gold, the water is still, and I'm holding something in both hands, rocks. Big, heavy stones, and each one has a name carved into it. Anxiety. Fear. Disappointment. Hurt. Doubt. I've been carrying them so long my arms are shaking. My fingers are locked around them like they're the only thing keeping me grounded. But they're not keeping me grounded. They're drowning me. One by one, I start letting them go. I open my hand, actually physically open my hand, sitting there on the floor, and I whisper, I release this to you. I can't carry it anymore. Another stone drops. This one too, Lord. I've been holding on to this disappointment for years. It's destroying me. Take it. Another. The fear. The what-ifs. The worst-case scenarios that play in my head at 3 a.m. I surrender them. This is 1 Peter 5 verse 7 in real time. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. Not some of it. Not the pretty, presentable parts. All of it. The ugly parts. The parts you're ashamed of. The parts you've convinced yourself you deserve to carry. The relief doesn't come like a lightning bolt. It's not instant. It's more like dawn. The way the darkness doesn't disappear all at once, it just slowly, quietly gives way to light. That's what's happening inside me. Stone by stone. Breath by breath. I'm still on the floor. The bills are still unpaid. The job situation hasn't changed. My dad is still gone. But here's the memorable truth I want you to hold on to, the one that's rewriting everything for me. I'm not facing any of it alone anymore. That's the difference. Not that the storm stopped. Not that the valley disappeared. But that I finally stopped pushing away the only one who was willing to walk through it with me. And then Jesus' words from John 14 verse 27 hit me like they've never hit me before. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. I used to read that and think, okay, Jesus, that sounds nice, but you don't understand what I'm dealing with. But here's what I missed for years. Jesus said those words on the night before He was crucified. He wasn't sitting on a beach sipping a smoothie. He was about to be betrayed, tortured, and killed. And He's talking about peace? That's not the peace of circumstances. That's not the peace of everything working out. That's the peace of knowing who's holding you when everything is falling apart. Peace isn't the absence of the storm. Peace is the presence of the one who commands the wind and the waves. Let that sink in. Peace is not when the storm stops. It's when you know you're in the hands of the one who made the storm. And right now, on this floor, at whatever time it is, because I've stopped checking the clock, I know that. Not in my head. In my bones. In the place where the knot has been for 5 years, something is loosening. Now I want to pray with you. Not at you. With you. Wherever you are, in your car, in your bedroom, in a hospital waiting room, in an empty office, close your eyes for a moment. Just take a breath. And if you can't find the words, let me give you some. Make them yours. Father, I'm here. I don't have it all together. I have doubts. I have questions. I've been angry. I've been distant. But I'm here now. Thank you for this morning. Thank you for breath in my lungs. Thank you for not giving up on me when I gave up on you. Forgive me for the years I spent running. Forgive me for the walls I built. Forgive me for believing the lie that you had abandoned me when you were right there the whole time. I release everything I've been carrying. The anxiety. The fear. The disappointment. The hurt I can't seem to let go of. The uncertainty about tomorrow. I place it all in your hands. I can't carry it anymore, and I wasn't meant to. I don't know what today holds. I don't know how you're going to work things out. But I'm choosing to trust you, not because I see the way, but because I know the one who does. Give me your peace. The kind that doesn't make sense. The kind that stays steady when everything around me is shaking. Guard my heart. Guard my mind. Let me walk by faith and not by sight. And for the person listening right now, the one who's in their own valley, the one who's been waiting for a breakthrough, the one who's this close to giving up, meet them where they are. Let them feel your presence. Let them know they're not alone. In Jesus' name. Amen. 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 I say it 3 times, each one slower, each one deeper. Not because repetition makes God hear better, but because my soul needs to mean it more each time. Now I'm going to give you something practical. Something you can do today. Because faith isn't just a feeling, it's action. It's movement. It's choosing to believe before you see the evidence. Here it is. Take one verse about God's faithfulness, just one, and write it down. Not on your phone. Not in a notes app. Get a piece of paper. A sticky note. A napkin. Write it out. And then tape it to your bathroom mirror.